Welcome to the D6 Family Ministry Podcast, a place where ideas, principles, and personalities come together to give you a ministry advantage that empowers the church and home.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 Podcast. Here are your hosts, Marianne Howard, Ron Hunter, and Josh Wooten.
Welcome, everybody. We're actually talking about a fun topic today. We've all had tremendous leaders, and we've all had leaders that we probably did not like along the way. And our guest today is going to be, he's quite a good leader and a gifted leader, but he's also one that is big on research. And I've been around leaders who ignore research, ignore counsel from the people around them. They're just not a lot of fun to work with. Josh, Marianne, have you guys been around leaders that just ignore everything else around them and just kind of plow through?
You know, I have experienced that in leadership in my time. You know, you work at a church and work with leaders long enough, you're going to eventually run into it at some point. And, you know, really, it's one of those things that I actually learned as much about myself in those times as well, to realize, you know, leaders need to be learners. You have to be able to take counsel from others, because as much as we may think leadership is about us having all the right answers, it's really not. It's about knowing when we don't have the right answer and being wise enough to go seek counsel from those who do. You know, I think one of the number one rules of leadership is surround yourself with people who are actually smarter than you, and don't be intimidated that you don't have all the answers. I think humility goes a long way in leadership. I recently went through the Enneagram with my staff, and as much as I loved learning about my strengths, I really believe what I learned about my weaknesses and the things that I'm not good at is really actually at the end of the day going to make me a better leader, and knowing when I need to tag in someone else.
That's right. Yes, I've experienced the same thing. And, you know, I like to refer to that type of leadership style as the Lone Ranger leader.
Yeah. High on silver.
And it's a very dangerous thing. And I see it as a subtle arrogance. It's very subtle and resistant. And, you know, there is a distinct difference between listening and hearing. I think good leaders hear intently, listen to the heart. You know, Proverbs 18:2, you guys have heard me say this because it's just transformed me as a leader and as a wife and as a mother. It says, the wise man seeks understanding. The fool seeks to air his own opinion. And I think that just speaks so poignantly to the point that we're making here. To be a good leader, we've got to be good listeners who are hearing.
Totally agree. And there's so many that get so laser focused that they block out everyone else. And I call that the broken spring of the slinky dog. The head of the dog gets so far ahead, it snaps or breaks that spring and ignores how long it will take people to catch up from the backside of that. And it's no fun. And one thing I really like is that our guest, he has been developing research through the years. His entire ministry has been dedicated to the very core principles of Deuteronomy 6. And he continues to lead so well in this area. As I've traveled not only all over this country, but into Canada and even into Asia, I bump into people who have been influenced by Mark Holmen's ministry. And he's tremendous. His ministry is Faith at Home. And I'm excited because he continues to develop these assessments that help congregations know exactly where they are, and then helps map out the path for becoming more healthy in the faith at home, Deuteronomy 66 environment. So I want us to sit back. I want us to grab pen and paper. If you're driving, we've said this before, this probably is a pullover moment, and be able to take some notes because you're going to take this all in. If you are driving, that's okay. Continue listening, pay attention to the road, and then when you get home, listen to it again and take notes. That's what you need to do. When we come back from this commercial break, Mark Holmen.
Are you seeking clarity in your vision for family ministry? Randall House Publishing has brought together 15 ministry experts to provide a resource that offers practical ways to measure and adjust every aspect of ministry. Recalibrate, a new measure for family ministry, is one of our best-selling family ministry titles. The book covers topics including cultural challenges, staff and volunteer dynamics, meaningful conversations, prodigals, and many more. The 15 contributors bring to the table their depth of ministry experience as they offer guidance in children's ministry, youth ministry, churched kids with unchurched parents, marriage ministry, and the art of family conversations, along with several other categories. Let these experts give you a clearer vision for the future of your ministry. Visit d6family.com today to order your copy of Recalibrate. All royalties from the sale of this publication go to support D6 International.
Mark Holmen is a national and international consultant and speaker for the Faith at Home movement that equips congregations to make the home the primary place where faith is nurtured. Mark has served in numerous pastoral roles and is now the senior pastor at the Log Church in Cross Lake, Minnesota. He is also the author of a number of books, including Faith at Home Revealed. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you guys.
Well, we're talking a little bit about the pandemic, and we're kind of, I guess, slowly crawling out of it right now. Hopefully we see some daylight. But I want to ask you, with you being a senior pastor, I'm curious to hear how the pandemic has affected you and your ministry.
Probably the key word for this whole last year has been pivot, right? We've had to just do a lot of pivoting, had to go from what was normal into new normals and adapting and flexing. And I think as long as you could hold things loosely as far as any type of schedule or any type of plan, we learned that you can't plan anything more than 2 or 3 weeks out because you just didn't know where you would be 3 weeks down the road. And so for those that struggle, and I'm a planner, I like to kind of know where I'm going with sermon series and things like that for the next 3 months, 6 months. I had to lay that all aside, and we had to just kind of take it week to week, adapt, flex, learn to use technology better and better, start podcasts like you guys did, start finding ways to and really make everything that we had to do had to be at home focused. At church was no longer an option. So for me, obviously serving in Faith at Home, I was sitting there going, okay, this really gives us an opportunity to do Faith at Home even at a greater level than we were doing first. And here I am, pastor and director of Faith at Home Ministries. And then I started to realize, wait, there was more we could have done and more we ended up doing as a result to be more at home focused with our worship, at home focused with our men's ministry, women's ministry, children's ministry. So it really created an opportunity for us to go even bigger with our Faith at Home focus.
Yeah, I like that you use that word opportunity because we hear so many negative things about what's happening, and yet to kind of put that perspective on it, it's kind of unique. You're not hearing a lot of people say that. I'm curious, with you being in touch with your church members and the heartbeat of your church, what effect have you seen it have on the members of your church, whether it's attendance, whether it's what's going on in the home? Just how have you been hearing from them, and what have they been feeling over the last year or so?
Well, I tell you, that's the big question, right? Is that, okay, all of us, all churches, even churches that weren't Faith at Home focused before, had to become at home focused because at church was no longer an option. No matter whether you were a small church, medium-sized church, large church, no matter what, everyone had to kind of figure this out and go, okay, now how do we bring worship into the home? How do we bring Bible reading? How do we transfer this? Because them coming to our facilities is no longer an option. And so how do we do programs differently? And so now we are all asking that question, which is, so what's happened as a result of this? And where are my people at? That's literally the question I started to wonder. almost 6 months ago. So since we are a research-based organization, we put together a new survey called the Faith Life Pandemic Impact Survey. We had just got done prior to the pandemic surveying about 8,000 churchgoers across 12 denominations to find out how their faith was being lived out in their homes prior to the pandemic. How was prayer going in the home, Bible reading going, faith talk, all these things? We'd found all that information out. We had just published those findings, and then the pandemic hit. And so now it was like, great. None of that really at this point is, but we at least had a picture that, okay, we knew prayer life was how it was going personally for people, for couples, for parents with children, for parents with teenagers. We had all that information. So we knew that, okay, this is probably where it was. But now we've done all this at-home stuff now, and children's ministry was done at home for the last year for us. Parents doing it with their kids, sitting in front of their TVs. They weren't coming to church for our kids' club anymore. I mean, these were things that we were now sending worship into the home. Everything we were doing was at-home focused. Well, how has faith been impacted by this pandemic? How is faith life, especially at home? Because home is where life makes up its mind. Anyone can act like a Christian for an hour at church, but we wanted to know, how has faith life been impacted by this pandemic? So being that I'm a senior pastor at a church as well, guess which church was the first to take the survey, because we needed somebody to kind of alpha test it and so forth. So my people, I sent it out to our folks saying, here's the deal. We would like to see how your faith life has been impacted by this pandemic. How has your prayer life been impacted? How has Bible reading been impacted? How has engagement in worship, in online services? How has it been impacted for you personally? How has it been impacted for you as a couple? How has it been impacted for you with your children? How has it been impacted for you and your teenagers? If you're a senior, how has it been impacted by you? Men, how has it been impacted for you? Women, how has it been impacted for you? And so we had our people take this survey. It's a very simple survey. We pushed it for 3 weeks and just said, we can't help you if we don't know. And what this survey showed, revealed to us, was how those things were impacted. Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Has it stayed the same? Has your prayer life, Bible reading, faith talk, what's happened with that? But the second layer of questions that the survey asks, because we designed it with this in mind, is where do they desire help now? We knew where they desired help before, but if we really want to see how this pandemic has impacted faith life, we need to not only look at what's changed, what's gotten better, what's gotten worse, but have their desires, what the areas where they desire help. Where is that now? How has that been impacted? So we just got our results of that survey, and I'm not going to take you through them because that's for me to know about our church. And so I now have a better idea for where my people are at. And I can tell you what, my friend, it is going to make a huge impact for us, knowing where we need to focus as we start gearing for fall and reopening programs.
Yeah, and I really like that. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a stats guy. And with this pandemic, I mean, we all have assumptions about what is happening to our families or what's happening to our churches. What I love is that you, with this faith life pandemic impact survey, you weren't just going to make assumptions. I mean, you dove in and said, we're going to find out the meat. We're going to find out the stats, and we're going to get the truth behind this stuff. And that's just something I love because, like I said, I'm a numbers guy. And you mentioned that it was a simple survey, but looking at like what you guys covered is anything but simple. I mean, the results coming out of this are just huge. And I'm wondering if there's maybe with your own church, if there's maybe one of the more shocking findings that you could share that just kind of made you go, whoa, I was not expecting that, or whoa, that's incredible, or something like that.
Well, obviously, one of the things for our church, our context was we were not live streaming services beforehand. We were just, you came to worship. I was kind of one of those anti-live stream guys. I don't want to become the TV pastor. I don't want to give you an excuse not to come to church. Well, that was silly because the pandemic forced us into it. Literally, the first Sunday, we had a laptop on a music stand. And we were live streaming that way. That's the technology, but we had to do something. And so now we've brought in cameras, and now live streaming is a permanent part of our ministry. And we have a lot of people that are snowbirds that head out of here for the winter. So now they could stay connected. And our attendance has grown significantly now that we have the live stream. And the live stream has become a huge front door for us as a church. Many people that are now coming to our church, now that we are reopening and we've got, we're close to 75% of our former attendance is coming back and is back with us. A huge number of those are people we've never seen before, but they all know us. Wow. And they're like, they've been watching us. Oh yeah, we've been watching. And they feel like as soon as it's funny to see them sitting out there because they are smiling and I get close. I come up to say, and I don't know them, but they feel they know me because they've been, and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's our first Sunday here. And, but we've been watching you all, we've been watching for weeks. And so live streaming's become a part of our reality. So one of the questions that we want to know is, so as we start to reopen, which this survey is finding out, and being able to come to services, are you going to continue to utilize the online worship as an option for you? And we thought that would be higher than it was. What a lot of our folks are telling us is now that it's reopened, we don't plan to but that doesn't mean we're going to stop doing the online. But a lot of our folks are telling us we're kind of tired of doing it that way. We want to get back in the building. And once we're back in the building, we plan to stay. We plan to keep utilizing that, which again is going to inform, should we start our kids ministry up again on Sunday morning? Are most people going to stay away or are they going to return? And when they do start returning, are they planning to stick when they return? There's things like that I thought we'd stay at a higher percentage that would say, yeah, I plan to continue to use the online. No, I think what we're saying right now is only about 20% said they plan to continue using it now once we reopen and they feel, or once they start feeling comfortable coming back again. So I don't know if that's a new learning. It's just a learning. Does that make sense? Like every one of these findings we found, like our couples, I was disappointed in one area prior to the pandemic. Our couples did not have much spiritual life together. That was when we took the survey, we have an original survey, the Faith Life survey, the first one, that showed us, this was painful, but like in our context, our married couples were literally saying, we believe praying together is important. Reading the Bible together is important. This is attitudinally, they said, faith at home is important for us to be doing as a couple. But then they said to us, but we're not doing it. But it was their highest area of desired help. So for us as a church, when we started to look at what do we have to do for faith at home, let's hit the low-hanging fruit, an area where there's an attitude that's good, a poor behavior, but a high desire for help. And so for our couples, we thought, great. So we started this marriage ministry, been doing it for about 3 years now. Lots of couples have gone through it. And so now we take this new post-pandemic Faith Life survey and thinking, let's see how prayer life has really increased for our couples. Bible has it. And what most of them said is, the pandemic actually made it a little worse. So it's like, darn it, we took a couple steps backwards. But what that informed us to do is we need to launch our marriage ministry is actually going to start an alumni group, which is for all those that went through it. We need to kind of refire those engines. And then while we get ready to launch new couples to go through our marriage ministry, because we don't want to lose the ground that we had gained. And so we don't see it as a bad thing. At least they admitted to us that it's gotten a little worse. Okay. Then it gives us an area that we can focus on that we now need to help get better again. Does that make sense? So those were a couple. Yeah. Now, this isn't in a public way. You aren't going to share this out there with anyone, are you? This is just for my church. You're not going to tell anyone about this, are you?
I mean, just anyone that wants to download and listen, but
yeah. But that's what I love about the surveys. You and me are the same. I'm not scared by surveys. I love to learn. And I mean, I think it was George Barna used this quote one time with us. He said, you kind of are what you research. You are what you study. You are what you... Well, I truly want our people to be living their faith, not just for an hour a week at church. We want them to live it at home. We want that home to be the primary place. We want them to have faith talk and prayer because, I mean, that's where life makes up its mind is what happens in the home. Well, then we need to start assessing what's happening in the home and then reassessing every couple of years and learning from it so that if we really want home to be primary, we really want parents to be primary, Well, then are we willing to take the journey of assessing, addressing, reassessing, readdressing, readdressing so that 10 years from now, things are different? So for us, it was survey number 2. We took an original one 3 years ago. We've taken this one now. In 2 years from now, we're going to take another one, and we're going to keep learning so that we can keep getting better at this.
Well, yeah, you've got me intrigued and hooked here because, I'm hearing this. I'm thinking, okay, I can't wait to share with my friends who are pastors that, people do want to come back. They're excited. And I'm thinking, okay, you just shared some maybe not great news about couples, but truth about couples. Maybe a few years from now, we'll release a Snyder cut that's 4 hours of you just revealing all these statistics. Cause I think pastors are probably like, give us more. But for those, I know there's those out there saying, we want to hear more. How can pastors and churches get a hold of this information? How can they conduct this? What can they do to find out more? Because I think right now they're thinking, yeah, we need these cold, hard facts.
Well, what we want to do is make it easy. We just call it faithlife.me. You just go there. I've got a video that explains the survey. And we're available. We're a very personal ministry. Like if you got a question, just call us. Just give us a holler. Send me an email, mark@faithathome.com. But faithlife.me will explain that. So that's what we do to help churches. So we have a help for parents. And I will tell you a couple learnings we've had with parents too. We have see some things move there. But with churches, I think every church is at that point where, I'd sure like to know where my people are at. I'd like to know what's changed, what's been impacted, and I'd love to know where they desire help coming out of this pandemic. That's the role we want to play. And we only charge $250 for this survey. And we don't care what your church size is. And if you can't afford $250, you just tell us and we will make it happen for you. We just want to be, and we have no hook at the end of it. We don't have a curriculum to sell you afterwards. We just want to reveal findings to you, to help point you in the directions. And you get a personal kind of 2-hour consult that we do via Zoom with your church's leadership to walk you through your findings and maybe give you some ideas and suggestions that these would be some areas you might want to focus on coming out of this pandemic. That's the role we want to play with churches. We're here to serve the churches, not sell them anything. So we always want them to know there's not something at the end that then now you got to subscribe to or anything like that. Just has a simple survey to help you.
That's very cool. I mean, $250 for something that you've already gone ahead and done the hard work for. I think our churches desperately need this. I know the home is also very important to you. I mean, faith at home. I mean, that's your thing. You've created an online faith at home makeover course for parents too. Can you talk about what that new course is equipping parents to do?
Well, here's one of the other things that we learned about our parents right now. So now our parents were put in the position where they had to be faith at home focused, right? Because they couldn't drop their kids off into children's ministry anymore, into youth ministry anymore. So for the past year, they've had to do it at home with their kids, whether they wanted to or not. And churches kept sending them stuff to do at home and creating their programs to be more at home focused. So prior to this pandemic, we were doing parenting events like you guys do, and it was called the Extreme Home Makeovers, based on my first book, Faith Begins at Home, a very popular kind of 3-hour seminar that we would do with parents. But again, you always got the core parents that would show up to those parenting events to give 3 hours on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night to that. Well, now the pandemic hit. And so we had to pivot that course and say, what if we made it more of an online course that any parent could take in the privacy of their own home? We talked to our parents. Our parents were like, and here's what changed. Parents now want more training because they're like, I now realize that after doing it with my kids for a year, I could use a little more help. And actually, I'm starting to like it. It's starting to get a little more easy. I'm starting to get a little more comfortable being a faith at home dad, being a faith at home mom. It's not as foreign. It's not as hard as I thought it was. But boy, oh boy, if you would offer me some more training. So we, again, created this online course, completely changed it, made it into 6 online sessions that you can just go through as a couple. You could go through it with other couples if you want. We then offered it to our parents. Now, when you offer a parenting thing, if you get 40%, maybe 50% of your parents to sign up for it and to actually take it, you've hit it out of the park. We had 88% of our parents sign up for this thing. And I asked a few of them, like, why'd you sign up for this? Like at this, and they were just like, because we need it. We now know we need it. We now want it. And they have been interacting in the chat room with me on it. And I've had more success with this online parenting, doing it this way, than I ever had doing a parenting. I guarantee you, if I would have offered this as a 3-hour seminar next week, we would have gotten about 40% maybe of our parents to show up. But something about this online, and now the parents want it. They're just at a place. So we've made that easy for churches too, that it's just something that you can just offer to your parents. You show them the link, and it's available on our website. The first session's free. And then if they want to take it from there, they just pay for, I think it's $12.99 or something like that. It's cheap. And then parents can just take it themselves at their own leisure. So yeah, this pandemic has changed a lot of things, but I do know that, and that was a big, in our survey, we found out our parents now desire more help with their children than they did before the pandemic. So that was one other. Now that's just our personal finding. I can't share that as a national finding yet. We haven't taken enough people through the survey yet, but that's going to be a fun one to watch. Is over time, once we get 3,000, 5,000 parents through this survey, it's going to be fun to see, has their desire for help with Faith at Home increased as a result of this pandemic? I think it has.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in my head, I mean, all these parents that suddenly had to become teachers for virtual learning, teaching their kids calculus and teaching their kids world history and all these things. Yeah, that stuff's important, but the spiritual aspect is so much more important. And so you've provided a tool, and I think there's a little less pressure, even though there's more eternal consequences. There's a little less pressure when you can kind of teach scripture and teach biblical principles on your own time rather than trying to have to force calculus down your kid's throat. So
the original book too that we wrote that goes with it, the book called Faith Begins at Home, that has been my longest lasting book that has been, since it originally got published, it's still being printed to this day by its original publisher. This has been a pretty amazing run, as you know, for a book to have that type of 15-year lasting kind of run with it. Is what we love is the first half of each chapter is laying a foundation for why these things are important. That's biblical foundation. But the second half of each chapter are practical ideas for how to do discipline in the home, how to do prayer in the home, how to do a family mission statement, how to do, and taken from all these different families that we worked with. And when I saw a good idea of how they did it, I put it in a book. I put it in the book so that we could fill this thing with practical tools and resources that parents can pick through. They're not going to do all of them, but it's going to give them 5 or 10 options in each chapter, and then just find the one that's right for you. And so it's been fun to convert that now into more of an online, you'll see it's more of an interview. I'm getting interviewed each week. It's not really me teaching each week. And it's just a chance for it to be interactive and then interact with the book, and makes for hopefully a tool that will really equip. That's what we've always been about. Inspire, motivate, and equip parents to be Faith at Home focused. So similar to your guys' heartbeat, that's why we love D6 so much. We share that passion.
Well, very cool. Well, I want to circle back to just where people can find this, because I know some people are probably driving in their cars hearing this and going, "Ooh, yeah, we need that survey," or "Ooh, yeah, we need that course." How can churches and parents get a hold of these materials? I know you mentioned the websites before, but can you give that to us one more time for those that finally have the pen in their hand?
Yeah, and or the easiest is anything can always be found at faithathome.com. I mean, Faith at Home, and spell out the word. So it's faith and an AT, faithathome.com, not the @ sign, but faithathome.com. You'll find everything there. And we make it easy. And again, if you have any questions, we'd love to serve them. So, but yeah, it's a fascinating time. Here's our big challenge. When we go back, do we start, or we're just wrestling with this? Do we start our Wednesday night kids club again as a drop-off thing? Or are we going to continue with offering it online? Because our attendance actually went up with it online. We're serving people that don't even go to our church or that aren't from this community, that are tuning in with parents and kids, and they're doing it together now. I'm not sure, brother, I want to start up the drop-off kids club. And we are literally wrestling with that question right now. Are we going to restart in the fall, the drop-off kids club, or are we going to continue? My friend, this is going to be a fun one to take. And I know a lot of churches are wrestling with that same thing. We've literally made progress. I know some of these dads that are now doing it with their kids, and they would have never done it had they been here at church, had we kept doing it this way. So this pandemic has definitely created an opportunity for us to ask some questions and reconsider some things moving out. And it's something I think every church needs to pray through and really try to discern what's the right thing for you, and then trust it and go with that.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Thank you for the work that you've done, not just with this survey and this course, but just through the years, just putting this idea and these principles in our heads and in our ministries of what Faith at Home truly means. I appreciate the research you've done. If you had a fantasy baseball draft kit, I think I would buy that for tonight, because I could use your research on that too. You just do a tremendous work in what you do. thank you so much for what you're doing. People, if you're out there and you're listening, you're like, yes, that resonates with me. That resonates with my church. Jump on this, grab it. You need it. You will not regret it. Mark, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, brother. Great to be with you guys.
That was just such a powerful podcast interview. And I love his heart to learn and listen. I just love it. I think a statement that stands out to me, and he said it a couple times, and it is really true. It landed on me and I needed to sit with it and think about it. And it's, home is where life makes up its mind. Oh man, is that not so true?
Absolutely.
It really reveals the guts and the glory of what we're made of behind closed doors. And guys, I want to be the same woman that I am at church, and the same woman that I am in the car line and on the roads of Dallas, Texas, and the same woman behind closed doors with my children and my husband. I want to be marked by Jesus. And so anyway, I was just really challenged by those words. And it also lands on me as a ministry leader. We've got to equip our families to pass down faith. That's what we've got to be.
Yeah, I think it's very important. What he did is giving his people that he leads and God gave him charge over, to give them a voice, and I love the idea of that survey is, to help us to be informed as leaders of where our people are openly admittingly that they need help in their spiritual growth, and being able to get them to anonymously give their honest, unfiltered opinions. And that will better serve them as church leaders and empower them to grow. And some of it, the truth hurts and it's painful. You think, oh, I thought I was doing a great job in this particular area, but the numbers say something completely different. Numbers are numbers. They don't lie to us, and they're absolute in a lot of areas. And so I think it's great. I think even as he shared in COVID, and even the things that, being an anti-live stream pastor, it was an eye-opening experience for him to realize, what, I was doing that wrong. I need to realize that our role as church leaders, really became what it should be anyway, is to equip and resource others to do ministry, like our parents, husbands and spouses, to grow in their marriages. So I just was really encouraged by his humility and not just, realizing, hey, there's some issues, but what do we need to do to take an honest look at it and get all the data and figure out how to move forward?
I think one of the areas I most have admired about Mark through the years is the fact that not only is he leading a nonprofit ministry, but he's been in the church, in the local church through this whole time. He has pastored in California. He's back up in the north, and he continues to coach and advise churches around the country, but he's not advising from some distant, sterile, laboratory. He's living it out. He knows what the trends are. And I think that brings a lot of credibility to what he's doing. So, Mark, I just want to say thank you for your continued investment in this realm. We appreciate you, and we're so excited. We look forward to next week's podcast when we're going to be talking with Kelsey Gothard. And our interview is going to be pretty enlightening, and we want you to tune in for that one. So until we see you next week, we're going to pray you do incredible ministry and continue to look for ways you can connect church and home and equip parents who are going out into everyday life.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.